Hello YouTubers, this is David with FM Tutorials. Alright, so what I'm going to demonstrate here is a modal dialog, and this is basically a pop-up or a dialog that cannot be exited unless the user performs the desired action. Usually you give them an option such as yes, no, okay, cancel, or it might be just a pop-up with one single action to acknowledge a warning, etc. So here's an example. I've created an events database and we have entered various events here, and this is what the modal dialog looks like. So when I click the search button, I am presented with this dialog and I cannot click outside of it or do anything else other than handle this alert which has been presented, and it's asking me to choose the date that we are going to search and then either continue or cancel. And once I've clicked one of those two options, then we return to our normal layout where we can continue editing as we want to. All right, so that's called a modal dialog, and I'm going to show you how to make one. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is go into layout mode, and we are going to create a new layout, and we're going to call this modal layout. Okay, and we are going to choose the computer option, and we want to create a form. All right, and let's click finish. Now, previously in my database, if I go to manage database, I have created my fields for my event table, but I've also created a global field called date selection. Okay, and so I created a date field, and then I double clicked and went to the tab called storage, and I turned on global storage, which is going to make a field which has the same value for any record in the database. So it's a good place to store things. And then I go ahead and click OK, and now we can use that global field in our modal dialog. So here's the standard layout that FileMaker creates for us, and we're going to get rid of the header and the footer, and we're going to adjust the dimensions so that we have a square of the correct size. And then we're going to add our title, and you could leave the header in there if you wanted to in order to make it stand out a little bit more, but I'm just going to go ahead and keep this simple. Okay, so we have our alert, and then we're going to add our text. And we'll make this a little bit larger. Okay, and the next thing we're going to do is add our field to the layout. So we're going to choose our global date selection field, and I'm going to turn off creating a label for that. Okay, and then I'm going to use my inspector, and we're going to go to the data tab and change the control style to a drop down calendar, and we're going to include an icon to show and hide the calendar. Okay, so you get this nice little button here that you can click, and you will get a pop-up calendar that you can select a date from. All right, and the last thing is we need to create our buttons. So let's choose our button option up here, and with the button tool we can create a button. All right, and this one is going to say continue, and this one is going to perform a single step, which is resume script. And so basically what's going to happen is when they click the search option, a script is going to be triggered which will open this dialog window, and then the script will pause. And when the user clicks continue, this button will resume with the next step of that script. So once we've chosen resume script, we're going to click OK. And then I'm going to hold down Option and drag this button to create a second one. And we're going to rename this one Cancel. Okay. And for this one, we're actually going to perform a script. And I already have the script made here, but it's going to be called Cancel Dialog. Okay. And down here under Options, we want to change this to Halt Current Script. So the way you could think of this is that the first script opens the pop-up and then pauses while the pop-up is displayed. And if you click Cancel, you now have a second script running on top of the one that's paused. And what that second cancel script does is close the window, but then we need to stop the previous script from continuing any further. And what Halt Script does is it cancels any and all scripts that are running in FileMaker. Okay? So it's sort of a global reset on any script. So now that we've set up our two buttons, we're going to go back to our main layout. Let's go ahead and go into browse mode. Okay, so I've already set this button up, and I'll just show you really quickly. If I double click it, it's set to perform new dialog, which is a script I created. Okay, so now let's go to the script workspace, and we have our two scripts. So the first one I'm going to show you is new dialog. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and delete these steps, and we're going to start fresh. Okay, the first script step that we want to use is to turn off user abort, and that's under allow user abort. So what that's going to do is make it so that when this script starts running, the user cannot cancel the script, such as by pressing escape and thereby terminating the script, leaving the modal dialog open. They have to actually carry through with the entire script. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to create a new window, and if we click this little gear icon, we can give it a name. So let's call it Event Search Options. All right, and under Specify Advanced Style, we want to create a dialog window or a modal window. Okay, and we're going to uncheck these controls because we don't want them to be able to resize it or maximize it or close it. And we're going to press OK. All right, so now that we've set up our new window, we are going to add the next script step, and that is go to layout. Okay, so once we've opened it, we're going to go to our modal layout that we created. All right, and the next step is we want to hide the toolbars. And if you see up here, this is the toolbar area, and we want to get rid of that so that they can't access the new record and delete record buttons and etc. So we'll go ahead and click the gear again, and we're going to set that to hide so that it hides them, and we're going to lock it. Okay, and the very next step is we need to adjust the window, and we're going to set that to resize to fit. And what that's going to do is it's going to clean up the window. For example, if we had this layout, what it would do is grab the corner and resize it until it fits exactly the size of the layout. Okay? And the next step is we want to position the window in the proper place. So in order to do that, we're going to use the move resize window script step. And let's go ahead and click the gear. And what we want to do is adjust the top. So we're going to set it to 20 pixels from the top. And then we want to center this window. Okay? So in order to do that, we're going to use a formula. And this is going to be using the get functions in FileMaker. And that is basically to get the screen width. Okay, so the screen width is from this end of the screen to this end. So the screen width divided by 2, which is exactly the middle, minus the screen width, the window width divided by 2. So let's say we have, this is our window. We divide that by 2 and we get this position, okay, or this width. And then we take the screen and divide that by 2 and we subtract it. And so what that's going to do is it's going to position this corner, instead of positioning it here, which would be the screen width divided by 2 would be right here. We're then going to subtract the distance from the left edge of the window to the middle from the middle of the screen, which is going to position it right in the center. So that's get screen width divided by 2 minus the window width cut in half. So let's press OK and press OK again. And the next thing we want to do is use the pause script step, and we're going to set it to indefinitely. Okay, so that's going to present the dialog, and then it's going to pause the script at that point. Okay, now once the user presses continue, the next thing we want to do is we want to close the window so that we resume access to the previous layout, which was this events database layout. All right, and that's the basic function. From there on, you would add other script steps, such as to perform the actual search itself, etc. But for the purposes of this tutorial, we're going to leave it at that. Okay, so let's go ahead and close this and save our changes. And the next thing we're going to do is double click our button and ensure that we have the new dialog scripts selected. And now we're going to test our script out. So let's go back to browse mode, and we're going to click our search. Okay, and so now we have our modal dialog. And if you notice, I cannot click out of it. I can't close the window. I'm forced to select my date and either continue or cancel the script. Okay, and I can position this dialog anywhere. If I go back here with the move resize window, for example, let's say I want it to be lower on the page. I could do, for example, get screen height times 0.3, which is 30%. So that's going to put the dialog, the top of the dialog, 30% down from the top. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Okay, so we get it right in the middle and 30% down from the top. So I can literally position this wherever I want. And by pressing continue, we resume the script. By pressing cancel, we actually start the cancel script on top of the original script, and then we halt it. And we can see what that looks like. I'm using FileMaker Pro Advanced, so if I go to the script debugger, I'll be able to see my script perform step by step. So we go ahead and click search. And we're going to go ahead and perform our script. So you'll be able to see step by step what's happening. So the first step is that user abort is now off. So the script cannot be exited by the user. A new window is created. And it looks like nothing happened, but if I move this, you'll see that I now have two windows. They're just placed right on top of each other. Okay, so now it goes to the layout. And the next step is we hide the toolbars and lock it. And now we adjust the window size to resize it. And now we're going to position the dialog window. And now the script pauses. Okay? And at this point, if I were to continue, then simply the next step would be to close the window. But let's say I choose cancel. So here at the bottom, you can see the call stack. You can see what scripts are running. So we know that a button was clicked, which activated the new dialog script. And so if I click cancel, you'll see that I have now clicked a button, which performs a new script, which all it has as a step is to close the current window. And since I chose for it to halt any other scripts running, as soon as that script is performed, the original script is canceled. Okay? So that's how you create a modal dialog in FileMaker Pro. I hope you found this useful. Be sure to subscribe to FM tutorials, and we will send you updates when we have a new lesson up for you. Thanks for watching. See you soon.